The effectiveness of conservation efforts in the United States. There is growing evidence suggesting that important areas for conservation are being ignored. In the past, national parks and other protected lands have been established based on their beauty rather than anything else. This isn't the problem. The problem is born when these are the only areas that are protected. Dr. Jenkins spearheaded a study looking into this mismatch using the GIS Biodiversity Mapping Program. This easy to use program helps visualize and compare a number of different important layers, including endemic spots, protected lands, distance to nearest protected lands, and much more. The graphic to the right is an example of one of the mini maps in his study, and it shows, among other things, that a lot of the endemics live in the southeastern part of the United States. In Dr. Brown's reply to Jenkins' original study, he advocates for more specific goals. These goals should not be based on places or species, but rather on actions. The next step is to take into consideration the economic, societal, and political implications. Brown expresses that Jenkins' use of maps is very important for the future of conservation, but he needs to refine his goals based on his criteria. The question to be asked is, do the most vulnerable areas of the United States align with the areas most heavily protected? Furthermore, by using mapping layers such as endemic spots, protected areas, and current conservation efforts, can we make visual representations to defend the answer of the previous question? Using biodiversity mapping in GIS, we plugged in trees, birds, amphibians, and mammals into a raster calculator to create a map showing endemic species. It showed a lot of these species reside in the southeast United States. This is represented by the red on the map, the more red meaning the more endemics. It should follow that this section of the country is the most heavily protected. The green on the map represents all the protected lands in the United States. To compare, this layer was added on top of the endemics to show if our current protected lands align with where endemics are. This important layer makes it clear a lot of the biggest chunks of protected areas are mostly not in locations where endemic species reside. The West clearly has more protected lands despite its lack of endemics. This is what Jenkins meant by the conservation mismatch. Again, using the raster calculator and similar functions but a different layer, this map shows where our priorities currently lie in regards to conservation. The darker the blue, the more intense the efforts. It is again clear that we have a lot of drive to conserve the beauty and mountainous areas in the West, but the Southeast United States seem forgotten about despite its vulnerability. It is good to see that we appreciate the Western land, but conservation should be a more encompassing principle that targets the overall support of life rather than beautiful landscapes. After looking at the GIS models, there is clear conservation mismatch between where the most vulnerable species are and where our protected lands are. It is concerning to see the endemic species not being a major focus of conservation. With this in mind, it would be harsh to criticize those who establish our protected land because we know so much more today about biodiversity and conservation in general. One study posted on nature.com takes the conservation mismatch to a global scale. It seems that the global trend is similar to the United States. The most biodiverse and endangered lands are not where the conservation emphasis is. As this information spreads, it would be good to see us learn from our mistakes and have more specific and action-based conservation efforts, like Dr. Brown talks about, to benefit organisms and species over just beauty. We know that a lot of important endemics live in the southeast United States, so it should follow that we shift our emphasis towards these species where the most help is needed.